Hey everybody, back again for October. I'm going to show you my ice pick streamer. It's a really good one. Just kind of like another version of a zonker, which is a time-tested pattern, but this particular one has been working really well. And as I did with my last video, I'm using those new fish skulls. These things are really starting to grow on me here. As you can see, I've already started my thread on the hook. I've covered most of the shank. You can see I have a reference point, probably about a quarter of the way back from the eye, because I'm going to be tying in what I call a foul guard for this particular fly, using some 35-pound mono and some super glue. Reason I put this on here, I found, me personally, I like the wings on any kind of rabbit strip flies a little longer than most, but the problem you'll find is if you tie them in too long without putting something from preventing them from fouling, they are going to inevitably wrap around the point of the hook, and then they won't behave properly when you fish them in the water. So there's a couple different things you can do. You can do a single posted foul guard. You can add some adhesive to the hide of the rabbit strip, which works pretty well. Sometimes I'll do that, and both put a foul guard on. But for this particular fly, I'm going to show you how I do a mono loop. It's very easy. You see, I've kind of measured it up here. Clip a little bit off. I want this to cover this portion of the hook shank because I want to build up a little bit of bulk in the body of this fly. So, key to this is you want to keep this fairly straight. You want this to move, stay right along either side of the hook shank, as you see here. So when you turn it up on its side, it's flat and level. I do a couple turns behind. You'll see here in a second. Now what I usually do when I tie a bunch of these is I'll tie these up, whip finish, glue them, and set them aside. As you see here, nice inline either side of the hook shank. And then I can start tying in my tail. But like I was saying, if I'm tying a bunch of these, I'll just tie that up, throw that stuff to the side, and then when I'm ready to tie my flies, get a dozen of them or so together, I'll start tying the rest of the fly. So I'm using, for this particular color combination here, this is what I call the grizzly colored one. So it's primarily gray, so I'm using 2 gray colored pieces of marabou. And wrap that in right on top, right back into the foul guard. Flip it, it's there. You can see I've kind of built up some bulk in the fly. Now this is the cool part, because I don't want this to foul. I'm going to pull this marabou down through the loop, as you'll see here in a second. So I take my whip finish tool, go up through the loop, hook it around the marabou, and then pull it down through the loop, as you'll see here. There we go. Learned that trick from a saltwater pattern. Pretty nifty one, so I grabbed it. Now, I'm going to tie in my rabbit for a wing. Yeah, bingo is right. I'm using Grizzly Bardite for this one. By Hairline, they have the best rabbit fur in my opinion. So you can see it's like a grayish tan with some black bar marks in it. I'm just going to peel some fur back. I'm going to have a tie-in point. Back of the fly, measure it up, advance my thread. Back to color schemes on this. White has been one of my favorite colors so far. Caught a pile of fish on the Farmington with it last week. But this one here is particularly good too. So I'll do 3 or 4 wraps, just to secure it in place. Each one progressively tighter. A couple wraps in front. I'll do a slight little whip finish sometimes too, just to lock that stuff in place. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to tie in my body material, which I've already made into a rope. You know, I'm really big on dubbing ropes or brushes. And for this particular one, I'm using silver holographic ice dub and black Senyo shaggy dub, which is basically the same thing as Doug Swisher's Wigglies. Hint, hint. I'm using silver wire for that. So that's what I use to spin this rope. As you can kind of see, it's kind of sparse. So I'm going to tie it in along the underside of the hook. For the white ones, I use just straight up pearl and pearl ice dub with the gray little rubber legs. Just gives it a little bit added more added movement, but you get some flash in there too. Just wrapped it in consecutive wraps up the hook, and you'll see I'll brush it out in a moment. You don't want to overdress that stuff. You can put a little too much flash in there, and then you're just going to get this big, tightly wound rope. You want something that's going to breathe a little bit. You'll see in a minute here when I comb this out what I'm talking about. But it gives it a nice little barring effect, and you get some added motion from those little rubber leggy things. So I do about 3-4 wraps behind, 3-4 wraps in front. As you can see, I've stopped that 1/4 spot in the shank. Get a pair of old crappy scissors. You can see these are. Cut that off because remember there's wire in there. Pin that back with your thumb. Go right over that tag end. Do a half hitch. It doesn't come undone. Now get yourself a piece of Velcro or some sort of brush. Velcro this stuff out. You can even get in there with a bodkin and pull out some of those little rubber legs. If you like. It's totally up to you. See how you pull this down. Just gives you a little bit more movement to your fly. And I'm just going to pull my rabbit strip over, maintaining it on top of the hook. You'll see here. Clip off that tag end. Cinch it down. Half inch in. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start using my collared material. Now I'm using the same collared material that I used in the last streamer I did. I've become a big fan of the laser dub. Stuff's awesome. This is a new particular color that just came out. It's called Silver Minnow Belly. Basically it's just the gray carpet fibers in there mixed in with some silver holographic crystal flash. Or ice dub rather, not crystal flash. Let's do a couple turns, and I veil it back, as you see here. A few turns in front, gives me a nice little collar. Pull that little rubber leg out there. Gonna invert it. And I want to put a little bit of a red mark for gills or blood or injury. Big fan of red in some streamers. This is also a new color, same dubbing. It's the red. As you can see, I've used a very, very small amount. And I'm going to hide that with some more of the laser dub in gray. And all I'm basically going to do is, you don't need to use a lot. Take about half of what you really need, because you're going to veil it, remember. You'll see what I'm going to do here. Pull it back. Comb it back real nice. Right the hook here. You can see got a little bit on the bottom, some on the top, and I'm going to do one last little bunch for the top here, just to even it out. Take a little bit out of there. Same thing. 1-2 turns. Veil it. Now the trick to these fish skulls is you definitely want to make sure you stop your tying point back from the eye of the hook, leaving yourself enough space, because you got to slide one of these heads onto the fly to finish it off. So what I usually do is I slide them on. You can see I've already pre-glued in the eyes. My suggestion on doing that is using either gel type super glue or Zap-A-Goo from Zap-A-Gap. I've been using the gel super glue, Loctite. It's my favorite. I put a little bit of that on there, and then now I'm going to push that head back onto all that material. So you see I have a nice little space in front of that. So you can see you got some good movement, enough bulk that's going to push some water. And then I'm going to put my thread back on, pants it on there, clip it off. You got to build a little bit of a thread dam just to taper off your fly. Half inch on there. Throw some glue in it. Whip finish, and I'll be done. Like I said, I've tied these up so far in whites. I've got a yellow and orange one that's absolutely killer, with like a fire tiger colored barred-eyed rabbit strip. And that one works really good in the fall for aggressive brown. So far I've taken a bunch of fish on it. This is the grizzly colored one. Really like the looks of this one. And the white's been pretty killer this fall. So, but that's the ice pick. It's a pretty cool fly. You can see it's got a lot of inherent motion, built-in movement based upon the materials that you have. So that's it. Alter the colors and enjoy. It's a real good one. It's been proven so far. So